The first episode of Stranger Things Season 2 is titled Madmax. The episode opens with a flashback to October 24th, 1984, when Hopper was just a young and upcoming cop. A group of robbers in masks rob a bank and then attempt to flee in a van. A police car starts following them, and a pulse-pounding car chase ensues. The robbers confront a mysterious girl sitting in the front of the van who is later revealed to be Kaylee and implore her to do something. Using her telekinetic powers, she creates an illusion of a bridge collapsing in on itself in the mind of the driver of the lead police car. He stops and crashes the car, only to come out and see that there is no collapse, and the bridge is still intact. The group is able to escape while blood starts running out of Kaylee's nostril, just as it would happen to 11 whenever she would use her abilities. We see the numbers 008 written on her arm, implying that there is a connection between her and 11. Back in Hawkins, Mike, Dustin, Lucas, and Will gear up for Halloween. The friends are still recovering from the traumatic events of the previous year, especially Will, who continues to experience strange visions from the Upside Down. The boys are having a fun time at the gaming arcade when Will has another vision of the Upside Down and appears to briefly be physically transported there. Will, however, quickly snaps back to reality while Mike asks him if he's feeling okay. Will shakes it off, and both boys go inside the arcade to enjoy themselves. As the kids enjoy their Halloween festivities, a new face enters the scene, Max Mayfield. Mr. Clark introduces her to the class as Maxine, but she tells him nobody calls her that, and that she prefers to go by Max. She quickly becomes the talk of the town, capturing the attention of both Lucas and Dustin. The boys are determined to discover more about her, sparking a comedic rivalry between them as they try to impress her. Two new characters, Murray and Bob, are introduced as well. Murray comes across as an eccentric conspiracy theorist, and he tells Hopper at the police station that a full-blooded Russian invasion is happening in Hawkins, and that there have been multiple reports of mysterious sightings of a Russian girl with a shaved head who also shattered glass using her mind. Hopper, however, simply disregards Murray and advises him to go home. Bob is introduced as Joyce's boyfriend, a very nice and jolly fellow who cares deeply about Joyce. Bob visits Joyce at her place of work, and both of them make out intensely before Joyce playfully asks him to go back to his job or he'll get her fired. Concerned about Will's mental state after his latest episode, Joyce is understandably concerned and seeks help from Dr. Owens at the Hawkins lab, who's become the new person in charge of the lab following Dr. Brenner's death. He appears to be more sympathetic to the town's plight. However, it becomes clear that the lab is still conducting questionable experiments, and Owens may not be as trustworthy as he seems. Dr. Owens asks Will to tell him about the previous night's episode, and he tells him that there was a storm, and he felt as if the evil was staring at him, and he felt frozen due to being scared. Dr. Owens asks Will about what he thinks the evil wants to do. Will tells him that it wanted to kill, not Will, but kill everyone else, sending a chilling sensation down Dr. Owens' spine. Dr. Owens tells Joyce and Hopper that Will is just suffering from PTSD, and that he is likely to get more episodes like this, but they should just treat Will normally and hope for him to get better. Nancy and Steve Harrington get back together again, and seem more in love than before. They go to Barb's parents' house for dinner, where Barb's parents tell them that they've hired a real lawyer, Murray Brown, to lead the case and try to find her, and that they are now more hopeful than ever that Barb will be found. Nancy gets emotional and excuses herself to go to the washroom, where she sits down and cries, remembering her friend. Bob comes over to the Byers' residence for dinner and movie night. They all have a good time, but when Will gets up to go to the bathroom late at night, he suffers another supernatural episode and is transported to the Upside Down. He gets goosebumps all across his body. His front door creaks open, and he slowly walks outside to see a storm with lightning and a huge, tall, scorpion-like creature in the sky looking down at him. This implies that there might be another threat looming over Hawkins from the Upside Down. 11, who disappeared into the Upside Down at the end of Season 1, is revealed to be alive and well, living at Hopper's home. 11 now has short, beautiful, curly black hair, and Hopper is looking after her, just like his own daughter. Hopper tells her that it's a rule that you have to eat dinner first and then dessert, as they both dig into their dinner, in a heartwarming conclusion to the episode. This concludes the first episode of Stranger Things Season 2. The second episode of Stranger Things Season 2 is titled Trick or Treat Freak. The episode begins with Eleven embarking on a journey following the events of Season 1. Having confronted and defeated the Demogorgon, she finds herself transported to the Upside Down. Discovering a portal leading back to the real world, she utilizes her powers to enlarge the small entrance for her escape. Swiftly making her way to Mike's house, she observes a flurry of cars and agents surrounding the residence. The agents, stationed outside, question individuals about Eleven's whereabouts. Watching from the outside through a window, Eleven witnesses the scene unfold. Noticing her vague outline, one of the agents swiftly exits the door in pursuit, prompting Eleven to elude capture and seek refuge under a tree in the woods as heavy rain pours down. Later in the episode, it is revealed that she would hunt down small, wild creatures in the forest and cook them over a fire for nourishment. At some point, an elderly man, armed with a gun, approaches her, inquiring about her identity and offering reassurance that he poses no threat. Despite his assurances, Eleven strikes him in the head with a burning log, absconds with his coat and hat, and makes a swift escape. On Halloween night, the kids are out trick-or-treating in their Ghostbusters costumes. We are shown that the group dynamic has shifted since the introduction of Max, the new girl in town, who's caught the eye of both Lucas and Dustin. They both look to talk to her, but ultimately, their shyness and introverted selves get the better of them, and they decide to approach her after the class. Meanwhile, Will's visions from the Upside Down intensify, leading him to draw a mysterious and disturbing series of images. Joyce and Hopper are deeply concerned about the implications of these drawings, suspecting that a new threat may be emerging. Nancy and Steve, in turn, are dealing with the aftermath of Barb's death. Nancy is haunted by guilt and wants to tell Barb's parents the truth, as she says she can't pretend everything is normal anymore. On the other hand, Steve is more focused on maintaining a sense of normalcy and protecting Nancy from potential danger, so he convinces her to go to a Halloween party. Their relationship gets strained as they navigate these conflicting priorities. Following this, Hopper receives information about pumpkin fields in Hawkins mysteriously rotting and decaying overnight, prompting him to initiate an investigation into these peculiar incidents. Delving further into the matter, he discovers a connection between the pumpkin decay and the Upside Down. To gauge the extent of the rot, he strategically places marking flags in the affected areas. Meanwhile, Billy, who is Max's elder brother, is presented as a somewhat deranged character. He almost runs over Mike, Lucas, and Dustin with his car as they are riding back home. But Max turns the steering wheel away just in time. He also becomes the new keg champion by chugging for the longest time at the Halloween party, and then proceeds to brag about this to Nancy and Steve Harrington. As Mike, Will, Dustin, and Lucas are out and about trick or treating, they get startled by Max, who is disguised in a scary costume. She suggests they all go to Loch Nora because that's where the rich folks live, and they can get better candy. While Dustin and Lucas are more than happy that Max has become a part of their party, Mike has his reservations. He says that Max is ruining the best night of the year. He walks away from Will and follows the other three while Will gets swarmed by other trick-or-treaters, one of whom tells Will, "Trick or treat, freak!" Will collapses to the ground, lying flat, and suddenly finds himself transported to the Upside Down. Frantically calling out for Mike, he turns around only to encounter a colossal shadowy figure rapidly approaching from the sky. Terrified, he quickly dashes to a nearby house in the alternate dimension, seeking refuge in sheer panic. As Mike locates him in the real world, he inquires about Will's well-being and tells him they were unable to find him earlier. Offering to escort Will home, Mike informs the others that he has found him, allowing them to resume their trick-or-treating. In response, Max questions what's troubling Will. Meanwhile, Jonathan makes his way to the Halloween party after having allowed Will to venture off with his friends. At the party, Nancy indulges in alcohol, and Steve attempts to intervene and persuade her to stop drinking. However, during their argument and Steve's attempt to take the mug from Nancy's hand, the drink spills onto Nancy's white dress. In an effort to remove the stain, they retreat to the bathroom, but their attempts prove futile. In her intoxicated state, Nancy candidly expresses, "It's all bullshit, and you're bullshit, and you want us to pretend that we didn't kill Barb and that we are in love. It's all bullshit." Steve questions her feelings for him, and once again, Nancy insists, "It's bullshit. prompting Steve to storm out of the bathroom and leave the party. Jonathan then sees an opportunity and offers Nancy a ride home. Upon their arrival, he gently lifts her, places her in her bed, and carefully tucks the covers over her before preparing to depart from her residence. Back at Mike's house, Will confides in Mike that he feels trapped between the real world and the upside down. Describing his experience, he mentions hearing a pervasive noise and encountering a living, shadowy figure in the sky that seemed to be approaching him. Mike questions the reality of it all, wondering if it's genuine or merely a product of Will's imagination, as the doctors suggest. Will admits uncertainty and implores Mike to keep it a secret, emphasizing that others wouldn't comprehend the situation. Meanwhile, Hopper loses track of time while investigating the rotting fields and realizes that he is late for the movie and candy night he had promised Eleven. He pays a trick-or-treating kid near the investigation site for all his candy and quickly makes his way back to the house. Once there, he finds Eleven locked up in her room. It is clear that Eleven is growing increasingly frustrated by her confinement while living with Hopper. While watching TV, Eleven lands on a channel with no signal and just static crackling. She puts a blindfold on and gets transported to the void to try to contact Mike. She finds Mike in his basement, talking into the walkie-talkie as if trying to talk to Eleven. Mike says that it's now day 353 and that he misses her, which makes Eleven cry, and she takes the blindfold off as Mike walks past her in the void. During the episode's final scene, Dustin returns home after trick-or-treating and finds a strange creature in his trash can. This concludes the second episode of Stranger Things Season 2. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please be sure to comment, hit the like button, and subscribe.